I said yes before he even finished the sentence. That was the first mistake. The second was looking into his eyes and realizing I already knew what danger looked like when it wore a calm face. You haven't asked the terms, he said. His voice was low, controlled, expensive. The kind of voice that made people sign things without reading them carefully. I tightened my fingers around the coffee cup in front of me. I heard enough. Across from me, Julian Vale leaned back in his chair like nothing in the world could surprise him. He was wrong. He was about to ruin my life, and I was about to let him. Let me make sure I understand, I said. You want me to marry you publicly, legally, for 1 year? Yes, and in return, I clear your mother's debt, I keep your sister in school. I make sure the hospital leaves your family alone. The room went quiet inside my chest. Outside the cafe window the city was still moving. Cars passed. People crossed the street. Somewhere someone was probably laughing. I hated that the world stayed ordinary while mine was splitting open. Julian studied me with those impossible eyes, dark, sharp, unreadable. You can still say no, he said. I laughed once. Can I? Yes. No, I said softly. I can't, because 2 hours earlier, the hospital administrator had looked at me with rehearsed sympathy and told me my mother's treatment could not continue unless we covered the balance. Because my younger sister, Ivy, had cried in the bathroom where she thought I couldn't hear her. Because I had spent 6 years learning that love was beautiful, but money was the thing that kept people alive. Julian slid a thin envelope across the table. Inside was the contract. Of course there was a contract. What's the catch? I asked. His mouth moved, but not enough to become a smile. You live with me, attend public events with me, no affairs that embarrass me, no lies to the press, and when the year ends we separate cleanly. I stared at the paper. 1 year, I said. 1 year. I should have felt disgust, I should have felt fear. Instead I felt something much worse. Relief. That was when I understood how desperate I had become. I want one more condition, I said. Julian lifted a brow. You're negotiating. I'm trying to survive. That usually looks better on people. I ignored that. My sister never knows this was the price. His eyes stayed on mine for a moment too long. Done, I swallowed, then I signed my name. The ink was barely dry when my phone lit up. Noah, I'm outside your apartment, we need to talk. My body reacted before my mind did. Julian noticed. Problem, I turned the phone face down. No, that was my third mistake. Because Noah Reed had always been the kind of problem that looked like salvation until it was too late. He was the man I had loved at 21, the man I had nearly left everything for, the man who disappeared from my life with a sentence I never recovered from. I want more than this. He said it on a rooftop in the rain while I was still stupid enough to think Heartbreak announced itself gently. It didn't, it tore, and even now, 3 years later, his name could still enter my blood like a blade. Julian watched me too closely. Who is Noah? I snapped my head up. Excuse me, you looked at your phone like it insulted your future. I should have lied. But something about Julian made lies feel childish. My past, I said. He nodded once. Then I suggest you leave it there. I almost smiled. That sounded possessive. It sounded practical. No, I said. It sounded like a man who doesn't like competition. Julian leaned forward slightly, his voice quiet enough to make me lean in without meaning to. Competition only matters when the prize is undecided. Heat climbed my throat, and I hated it. I hated that a man I had known for exactly 40 minutes could make silence feel intimate. I stood abruptly. When does this start? Now, of course it did. Julian rose too, buttoning his coat with one clean, elegant motion. He was unfairly attractive, not soft attractive, not boyishly charming. No, he looked like the kind of man mothers warned daughters about while secretly hoping they'd be chosen by one. Tall, severe, beautiful in a way that felt almost cruel. The kind of face that belonged on the cover of a magazine about money, power, and private sins. Come with me, he said. I should go home first. No, I blinked. You don't get to order me around just because I signed something. He stepped closer, close enough that I caught cedar and rain and whatever impossible thing his skin did to the air. You're right, he said. I don't get to order you around. The pause stretched. Not yet. I should have walked out. I followed him anyway. His car was waiting outside, black and silent and absurdly polished, and Noah was standing on the sidewalk across the street. The second I saw him, my pulse turned traitor. He looked exactly the way memory had punished me for remembering him. Messy dark hair, grey eyes, black jacket half-zipped, that same mouth that had once kissed me like he meant it and lied like he didn't. He saw me. Then he saw Julian beside me. His whole body changed, not much, just enough. His shoulders went rigid, his jaw locked, his eyes cut to Julian then back to me. Lena, he said, no one called me that anymore. No one except him had ever made my name sound like a plea and a sin in the same breath. Julian opened the car door for me. Noah stepped off the curb. Who is this? He asked. I should have said none of your business. I should have said someone I work with. I should have said literally anything that didn't sound like self-destruction. Instead I said my fiancé. Julian turned his head slowly toward me, so did Noah. For one bright, terrible second all three of us were silent. Then Noah laughed, not because it was funny, because something in him had cracked. You're engaged, I lifted my chin. Yes, to him. Julian shut the car door and faced Noah fully. I assume she heard you. Noah ignored him. His eyes were on me. Since when? Since today. His gaze flicked between us. Are you serious? I smiled and it cost me more than I can explain. Completely. Noah stepped closer. Lena, can we talk? Julian said. No. I turned to him. I can answer for myself. Then answer. The arrogance in it should have infuriated me. It did, but Noah had already taken another step toward me and suddenly the air felt too thin. I don't have anything to say to you, I told Noah. His face went still. That used to mean danger, it still did. Don't do that, he said quietly. Do what? Pretend I don't matter when we both know I do. The nerve of him almost took my breath away. I laughed sharply. You lost the right to say things like that the day you walked away. His gaze darkened. You think that's what happened? You left me on a rooftop with rain in my shoes and lies in my mouth. I think I understand it perfectly. Julian's eyes moved to me then sharply, as if filing away the sentence for later. Noah saw it too. Something ugly flashed across his face. Whoever he is, Noah said, he doesn't know you. Julian answered before I could. And you do? Noah finally looked at him. That was a mistake, because the moment they really saw each other, some brutal male understanding passed between them. Measured, territorial, cold. I know enough, Noah said. Julian's expression didn't change. Then know this, she's with me now. The words hit harder than they should have, with me now, like I belonged somewhere, like I was already chosen, like none of the chaos inside me showed. Noah looked at me one last time. You're making a mistake. I smiled again because if I stopped I might scream. That's how every interesting story starts. Then I got into Julian's car. I did not look back until we turned the corner. Noah was still standing there, still watching. And God help me, part of me hated that leaving him hurt. Julian did not speak for the first 10 minutes, neither did I. The city passed in smeared gold through the windows. Finally he said, you lied well. I stared ahead. Excuse me, you were not planning to announce an engagement today. You sound disappointed. I sound observant. I turned toward him. You could have corrected me. And lose the advantage. There it was again, that cool, ruthless calm. I should have hated it. Instead I felt something stranger. Safe, not emotionally safe. Julian did not feel soft enough for that, but structurally safe. Like if the world collapsed around us he would still be standing in the center of it, irritated but intact. I needed him to believe it, I said. Julian's eyes stayed on the road. Because you still care what he thinks? No, the answer came too fast, he noticed. Lying again. I folded my arms. You're very unpleasant for a man who just bought himself a wife. His hand tightened on the steering wheel. Don't say it like that. I went quiet. That had landed somewhere. Interesting, what should I say? I asked softly. His jaw moved. Say what it is. A deal. Yes, a transaction. His voice flattened. If you need to make it ugly, that says more about you than me. I stared at him, startled, then I laughed, a real one this time. He glanced over. What, you are unbelievable. People usually say that when they mean difficult. No, I said, I mean dangerous. And yet here you are. His penthouse was exactly what I expected and somehow worse. Glass walls, black stone, expensive silence. It looked like a place designed by a man who trusted money more than warmth. When we entered, a woman in a navy suit rose from the living room. Mr. Vale, Dahlia, he said. This is Alina. Dahlia's eyes flicked over me with the quick, efficient intelligence of someone who had spent years cleaning up after the powerful. Of course, she said. I'll have staff prepare the East Suite. I opened my mouth. Julian said the main suite. Dahlia blinked once, barely. Understood, I turned to him as soon as she left. Absolutely not. Julian removed his coat. We are getting married in 10 days. We will be photographed entering and leaving together. We cannot sleep on opposite ends of the apartment like offended cousins. I'm not sharing your bed. He looked at me for a long moment, then he said, I didn't ask. that should not have sent heat across my skin. I hated that it did. He walked toward the bar. Drink, yes, what would you like? Something strong enough to erase tonight. He poured whiskey into 2 glasses and handed me one. Our fingers touched for a fraction of a second. Nothing dramatic happened, no music, no sparks, no cinematic nonsense, just awareness, clean, sharp, unwelcome. I drank too fast. He noticed that too. You're afraid. No, I said. He took a slow sip. You are, of what happens when your life changes too quickly. I stared at him. How do you know that? He set his glass down. Because your shoulders have been locked since I met you. Because you keep using sharp words when softer ones would tell the truth. Because you lie worst when you're emotional. I should have been angry. Instead, for one humiliating second, I wanted to be understood by him. That was unacceptable. So I asked the question that had been sitting under my tongue since the cafe. Why me? He was silent long enough that I almost thought he wouldn't answer. Then he said, because you don't look at me like I'm a fantasy. That's not a romantic answer. Good. He stepped closer, one measured step at a time, until the distance between us became personal. Romance is usually where people start lying. I held his gaze. Then tell me the truth. His eyes dropped to my mouth and then came back. Dangerous, very dangerous. The truth, he said, is that you needed saving, and I needed someone who could stand beside me without falling apart in public. I let that sit. Then I said, and the other truth. He went still. That was when I knew there was one. I'm listening, I whispered. His voice lowered. The other truth is that when you walked into the cafe, I forgot what I was going to say for the first time in years. I dislike that feeling enough to notice it. My breath caught. I should have stepped away. I didn't. The room had gone too quiet. I don't know what to do with that, I said. Neither do I. His hand came up, not to touch me. Just to brush one loose strand of hair back behind my ear. It was the gentlest thing anyone had done to me in months. Maybe years. It ruined me instantly. Because the body remembers tenderness even when the heart is too tired to trust it. I stepped back first. He let me. That's enough for tonight, I said. His expression became unreadable again, as if I had imagined everything beneath it. Your room is upstairs, he said. I hated him for that composure. I hated myself more for wanting to break it. That night I lay in a bed too soft to feel real and stared at the ceiling until sunrise. I dreamed of Noah. Of course I did. Not the rooftop version, the earlier version. The one with grass stains on his jeans and sunlight in his hair, and that laugh that always made me feel like the world was less cruel than it turned out to be. We had been 20 and reckless and so stupidly in love that sometimes I still wanted to shake that girl by the shoulders. She thought wanting someone badly enough could fix everything. She had no idea men could hold you like treasure 1 month and make you feel disposable the next. When I woke, I was already angry, at myself, at Noah, at Julian, at the hospital, at the stupid shape of need. My phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. I know you lied yesterday, meet me. Noon. Noah, I stared at it until my pulse became a problem. Then another message came, if you don't come, I'll come there. I should have blocked him. Instead, at 11:45, I was in the back seat of a car heading to the old greenhouse outside the city. The same greenhouse where Noah first kissed me. Because apparently I enjoyed emotional self-harm when it was dressed as closure. He was already there when I arrived, hands in his pockets, black shirt. Wind moving through his hair. For 1 second nothing existed except memory, then he said, you look expensive. I stopped walking. You look manipulative, his mouth twitched. There she is. I'm not here for nostalgia. Good, he said, neither am I. He stepped closer, still too handsome. Still too familiar. Still too able to pull something reckless and feminine and humiliating out of me with one look. You're not marrying him, he said. I laughed. He didn't. Oh, I said. You're serious? Yes, you really haven't changed at all, and you still do this thing where you joke when you're cornered. I'm not cornered. Then tell me the truth. I folded my arms. I am marrying him. No, the force of that one word made me blink. You don't get to decide what I do. No, he said, but I do get to tell you when something smells wrong. I stared at him. Interesting. I missed the part where your instincts became more important than my choices. His eyes darkened. You want to talk about choices? Noah, you think I left because I wanted more than you? My chest tightened. You said it. Yes, he snapped. And then you walked away before I finished the sentence. I went still. That wasn't how memory told it. My voice came out quieter. What? He laughed bitterly. God, of course. What did you mean? I asked, his jaw locked. I meant I wanted more than that city, more than staying trapped under my father's shadow, more than pretending I could build a life for us there. The air thinned. I couldn't finish it. He looked at me like he wanted to be cruel and hated that he still didn't know how. I came back to your apartment that night, he said. You were gone, your landlord said you'd moved out, then your number died, then I heard you left the country for work. I took a step back. That's not possible, it happened. No, I whispered. No, because if that's true then I had burned us down over half a sentence. Then all these years I had been loyal to a misunderstanding so deep it became identity. Then I had not only lost him, I had helped lose us. He saw it happen on my face, and because life has a cruel sense of timing, pain made him gentler. I never stopped looking for you, he said. I laughed once but the sound broke. Don't do that. Do what? Say things I wanted too badly. He stepped close enough that I could feel the heat of him. I'm saying the truth. I looked up at him and there it was again, that old pull, that old wreckage, that old hunger that had never really died, only gone feral. His hand came up, hesitated, then touched my cheek. My whole body betrayed me. God, some men don't leave your system. They just hide in the blood until touch gives them a way back. Noah, I said, and it already sounded like surrender. His thumb brushed just under my eye. You still do that thing, he murmured. What thing? Pretend you're tougher than you are when you're hurt. I should have moved, I didn't. He bent his head slightly, not kissing me yet, only waiting close enough that my breathing changed. If you marry him, he said softly, I think it'll kill something in me that never got over you. My eyes closed. Because what kind of woman hears that from the man she never stopped loving while engaged to another man who had just saved her family? A weak woman. A selfish woman. A doomed woman. I whispered, you don't get to say that now. I know. Then why are you? Because if I lose you again, he said, voice rough, I want to lose you honestly this time. That did it. That cracked the last useful part of me. I kissed him, hard, immediate, like a confession with nowhere else to go. He made a broken sound against my mouth and pulled me in so fast my back hit the greenhouse door. Every memory I had ever tried to kill came back living. He still kissed like he meant everything. Like he was hungry and furious and trying not to hurt me with either. Like love and damage had always been tangled in him. His hand slid to my waist. Mine fisted in his shirt. When we broke apart we were both breathing too hard. He stared at me with something close to grief. I hate him, he said. Don't. I do. This isn't his fault. His eyes sharpened. Then whose is it? Mine, his, timings, poverty's, pride's, pick one, pick all. I leaned my forehead against the glass and laughed once miserably. You really know how to ruin a day. He came up behind me, not touching this time. That's not why I came. No, I asked. No, his voice dropped. I came because I saw your face yesterday and knew you were lying. And because if you're marrying him for money or debt or fear, I'll tear the whole thing apart. I turned. You can't. Try me. There was something wild in him now, not boyish anymore, not soft, a grown man's possessive anger. It should have frightened me, instead it lit something low and dangerous in my stomach. That scared me more. You don't know what you're asking, I said. Then tell me. I opened my mouth, nothing came out. Because telling Noah the truth meant telling him I had already signed away a year of my life to save my family. And telling him that meant watching whatever hope had just returned to his face die in real time. I couldn't do it. Coward. His expression changed when he saw my silence. There is a reason. I looked away. He caught my chin gently and turned me back. Lena, that name almost undid me by itself. Tell me. And maybe I would have. Maybe I would have told him everything right there in that ruined greenhouse where he first made me believe I could be loved without conditions. But a voice behind us cut through the air like a blade. She won't. We both turned. Julian, black coat, stillness sharp enough to wound. Eyes colder than I had ever seen them. He must have followed me. Of course he had. Noah straightened instantly. Who the hell are you? Julian's gaze stayed on me. I gave you one rule yesterday. I folded my arms because I was suddenly freezing. You don't own my schedule. No, he said. But I do own enough private investigators to know when you're walking into something stupid. Noah stepped between us without thinking. That would have been almost sweet if it weren't going to end badly. She came here to talk to me. Julian's eyes finally moved to him. Then speak quickly. She's leaving. I had never wanted to slap two men more. I am standing right here, I snapped. Neither answered. That was somehow worse. Noah turned to me. Who is he really? Julian answered first. Her husband. The silence that followed was almost beautiful. I stared at Julian. Noah stared at me. What? My mouth went dry. Julian, no. His voice stayed cool. He wanted the truth. Noah laughed once violently. You married him. Julian slipped his hands into his pockets. Yesterday, that part at least was a lie. But it was close enough to truth to destroy what remained of the morning. Noah looked at me as if I had become someone else. Maybe I had. My voice came out small. Noah, you kissed me. Yes, while married, Julian said. I'd be careful how you phrase that. Noah turned on him. I'm not talking to you. Julian's face didn't change. That's unfortunate because she doesn't seem able to. God, I hated him for being right. Noah stepped back from me then, and that distance hurt more than if he had shouted. He looked at me the way people look at ruins, trying to find the architecture they used to admire. Finally he said, tell me one thing, is any part of this real? I looked at Julian, at Noah, at the life I hadn't chosen. At the life I had almost gotten back. Then I did the most honest thing I could. I don't know. That answer destroyed both of them. Julian hid it better, Noah didn't. He nodded once, the way men do when pain has become too humiliating to show twice. Then he walked out of the greenhouse without another word. I made a sound, I don't know if it was his name or just grief leaving the body badly. Julian watched him go, then he looked at me. I expected anger. What I saw was worse, possessiveness. You kissed him, he said. I laughed in disbelief. That is your concern right now. Yes, you are unbelievable, and you are standing here devastated over a man you supposedly buried 3 years ago. That shut me up. He stepped closer. Did you mean it? I stared at him. What? The kiss. Why did he care? Why did that question sound so intimate in his mouth? I should have told him it was none of his business. Instead I said, yes. He inhaled once through his nose, the smallest movement. But I saw the effect of it in his shoulders, his jaw, the sudden terrible stillness in him. When he spoke again, his voice was lower. Then do not ever do that to me again unless you mean it with me too. My pulse stuttered. I looked at him, truly looked, and for the first time I understood the danger of Julian Vale. He was not cold because he felt nothing. He was cold because feeling things cost him too much. What are you saying? I whispered. His gaze dropped to my mouth, then lifted back. I'm saying your husband just watched you kiss another man, he said. And what bothers him most is that he wanted to know what your face looks like when it's him. The greenhouse went silent around us. I should have stepped back. I didn't. Everything about this was wrong. Complicated, morally ugly. But desire rarely waits for ethics to organize themselves. Julian touched my jaw with 2 fingers almost formally. Tell me to stop. I could not. That was the problem. Not with Noah, not with Julian, with me. I was so starved for certainty, for love, for rescue, for being wanted without pity that I was becoming dangerous to everyone around me. Including myself, so I did the only thing left. I closed my eyes and whispered, take me home. And Julian did, not triumphantly, not gently, just quietly, like a man who knew the war had only gotten uglier. That night I stood at the window of his penthouse in a silk robe I had not chosen and watched the city burn gold under the dark. He was behind me, loosening his tie in the reflection. Neither of us had spoken much since the greenhouse. Because what do you say after watching the past crack open while the future stares from the doorway? Finally he asked, do you love him? The question should have offended me. It didn't. Yes, I said. He nodded once as if he expected no other answer. And yet you came home with me. I turned to face him. He was beautiful in that cruel, expensive way again. Jacket gone, tie half loose, white shirt open at the throat, emotion hidden too carefully to be absent. I don't know what I'm doing, I admitted. That makes 2 of us. There was a strange comfort in that. I asked, do you want honesty? Always. I came home with you because when Noah looked at me tonight, I felt like the worst version of myself. I took a breath. And when you looked at me, I felt seen anyway. Something changed in his face, not softness, never softness exactly, but a lowering of the guard. He stepped closer. Do you know what I hate most about him? Julian asked. I shook my head. That he got to meet the version of you that still believed in easy love. My throat tightened. And you, I whispered. His fingers found the belt of my robe, not pulling, just touching. I get the version that survived. I think that was the moment I truly began falling for him. Not because it was romantic, because it was accurate. He did not want innocence from me, he wanted truth, and truth is seductive in a way fantasy never fully is. I said, that version bites. His mouth almost smiled. I noticed. Then he kissed me, slow, deliberate, nothing like Noah. Noah kissed like memory. Julian kissed like control breaking. His mouth was measured at first, almost respectful, like he was giving me one last chance to decide what this meant. Then my hand slid into his hair and something in him snapped. He pulled me against him with enough force to make me gasp, and the sound seemed to undo him further. The kiss deepened, hotter, hungrier, still elegant somehow, but only barely. There was power in him, yes. But under it, God, there was restraint, and feeling the restraint slip was almost more intoxicating than the touch itself. He kissed like a man who had denied himself too many things for too many years, and suddenly saw no reason to continue. When his hand moved across my waist, I felt it everywhere. I broke the kiss first, breathing hard. "This is a terrible idea." "Yes," he said and kissed me again. That should have been enough warning. It wasn't. I kissed him back like I was trying to punish every man who had ever taught me the wrong lesson about love. And if some part of that punishment was meant for myself, well, I had always been generous with my own destruction. When he finally drew back, his forehead rested against mine. "Say stop," he murmured. "I should have." Instead I whispered, "Why did you choose me?" His hand tightened at my waist. "Because the first time I saw you," he said, "you looked like a woman who would either save my life or ruin it, and I couldn't decide which one I wanted more. That was not romantic. That was worse. That was intimate." I looked at him, at the man I barely knew and already no longer wanted to leave, and understood the twist too late. Noah was the love I never buried. Julian was the man I never saw coming. And somewhere between debt, desperation, betrayal, hunger, and honesty, I had stepped into a story dangerous enough to ruin all of us. The worst part, for the first time in years, I wanted to know how it ended.